Hello. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Alright, so we got all this stuff baked out last time, but I think I'm actually going to make a few adjustments to these. I feel like they're just too thin. I actually see clipping here. Something's clipping there. I think we corrected for that last time, right? Okay, so the change I'm going to make with our textures is I'm going to thicken them up a bit. So starting at the top, should be these ones. Let's update that to 10. 8. So for those who don't know, 0.008 is what the recommended width is for the strands themselves when you import them to UE5 for like realistic human hair. That's how they lay it out in the UE5 docs, at least, and the white papers for the Groom system. So they recommend 0.008. And one thing we can do is you can also totally come here and do like a little bit like, you can see the position here, like it gives you like a percentage of where it's at on the, so I put it like at 0.9, and then on the last 10%, I bring that value down to like, let's say 0.7. You can see the tips, it just thins them out a little bit right here. So I think like 0.7 is good. Honestly, I feel like the shader has a tendency to thin them out a little bit towards the tips, so it might not even be necessary. But that's something you can do if you want to. And you can do that for your down here too. Right? If you feel like your roots are too thick and noticeable, you can thin them out. Not that much, probably. Probably like, no, I wouldn't go lower than halfway. I wouldn't worry about this too much, especially for the fill layer, but I'm just going to leave it flat for now. But I just wanted to point that out. 0.008, 0.008, 0.008. Cool. What is this? This one over here. Yeah. Okay. Mind you, another thing that will affect the thickness of these strands is just like the actual thickness of the width of the card itself, the texture. Like if you stretch it or compress it, obviously. Ideally, you want to avoid that as much as possible, but sometimes you just do it anyways. Okay. check everything. 008, 008, 008, 008. Okay. And if you haven't seen my texture baking video, it's just a normal video on my channel. I didn't live stream that last time. I just pre-recorded it. But it's there if you want to watch it. Okay. One thing I need to do also is to get a better depth texture, I should move the camera closer to the actual cards. For some reason that makes a difference, but I don't know why. Let's unlock this. So it's not changing what it's looking at because it's an orthographic type camera. It doesn't really care how close or far it is. So what I found is, like, the closer it is, the more concrete depth information you're going to get for your depth texture. Something like that. It's probably good. Another thing we should do is make sure select the camera right here. Oh, it's already selected technically. Attributes. Change our near clip. It's already set to 0.1. I think it's set to 1 by default. But we'll set it to 0.01. So it's like 100. Because we're not seeing anything far away. Okay, let's lock that again. That's our render camera for our cards. Okay. I won't waste time rendering it this time, but I just wanted to show you the changes I'm going to make. So we'll leave this here for now, and then I'll render this offline. And just know, here, let me show you this real quick before I do. No. Select this space. Now let's open this up. On the video, I would pause it for the renders, but obviously we're not doing it here. Obviously, too, we don't really want these shadows in the render. But this is not the main render I want to show you anyways. I want to show you the depth render. We crashed. I'll be right back. Let me fix this. Stuff like that happens. See chat while we wait. Hey, can you you can check tutorials by Jay Hill. They help me out. I think Andrew Sir also have. I'm not sure. Do you have any Xgen type? More basic. I'm trying to get into Grooms. Yeah, so if you check my live stream archives, uh, so here in my YouTube channel that we're live on right now, all these like earlier videos is where I do a lot of that stuff. So in this one, I'm just like kind of going through and showing you how to place your curves. And then by this point, we're getting closer to rendering these. There you go. See? And this is like hours of demonstration. So it's really thorough. Like you can see how I got all the way to like pretty much the final product. And I think at this point, I just kind of go. I think in the end, I just did this to kind of like finalize it. And then I go over like any last bits here. I kind of demonstrate it a little bit, show you like physics and stuff working. And then I go over all of the Xgen stuff here too. And I go back and forth between like live streaming and pre-recorded videos. It just kind of depends on my mood. But maybe I'll take some of this live stream stuff and condense them into like a video at some point, but it just takes a lot of time to edit that stuff. Yeah, so don't worry about the card texturing thing. But I have the video on that. So we're just gonna go back to card placement, I think. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm just turning off the screen so I can go through my folders without accidentally sharing anything confidential for like work. Project. Or there you go. So this is where we were with placing cards. Like I said, these feel a little too thin to me right now, so I wanted to thicken them up and rebake them. But I'll rebake them offline. For now, we'll just start placing cards again. I'm gonna start by redoing like these base textures. I didn't mean to do that. Let's just get rid of these. Start over. the end of last live stream, I just did like a quick demonstration to kind of show off the process of it, but I prefer to just start over. So I use, again, a plugin called CurveTools. If you Google CurveTools, you'll get to this ArtStation page. He's on 1.3 now. I'm not even sure if I'm in the latest version. Let's see. 1.3 new features. I think I already have this version, so yeah, I have the latest version. It's a really good tool. For personal use, it's $25. That's one-time payment, so it's really affordable, I think. And even for like a studio, $100 is not bad. 2 to 9 users. That's really good. Fantastic tool in my opinion. There's some things that could be better about it, but I mean it's just about as good as anything I've used, like for bespoke tools. Like there's some things that I liked about the internal tools a little bit more, but there's some things I like about this more too. Like this has a nice layering system built in and everything. Enough of that though. Let's start. So I hit new card and it just gives me a new card here at the base of the world, you know? There's a strange transparency to it, but I hit select geo, select curve, select geo, and then normally you apply a new material, but I already have the one I have existing, I think. Maybe Lambert 5, yeah. So pretty straightforward. I just have my texture I baked out last time, which you can look at the video here, set up. And the diffuse and transparency. Obviously it's all texture, so you have a UV window editor here in CurveTools. That's its own bespoke sort of a UV editor for cards. And nothing's going to show up here yet with this selected. You need to select the curve. And now we get our box. So let's scale horizontally first. Now I need to flip this vertically. So I'll start out focusing the top. Obviously we're not wide enough, right? So scale, horizontal selected. You can also go down here as options. I just want to see the alpha by itself. It doesn't seem to be working though. Okay. Oh, I think this is just the alpha. Yeah, just having it white makes it easier to see. But you have different options down here. Scale vertically. Okay. So you can see our first card here in the viewport too. So I want to bring this up. 90. 90. So 90 rotate in the X, minus 90 in the Z. Let's freeze those. What? Don't freeze them then, I guess. So ignore that. We don't need to worry about it anyways. So here we have our curve control window in GS CurveTools. Kind of adjust our width. Let's go ahead, turn on our body. So our clumps they start out thick and then they get really thin. They're definitely more dense than what we have, so we'll need to add some layering to this. When I compare that towards the tip to the thickness here, I think we're more like something like that, maybe. Okay. Okay, we'll need to make a few more now. Duplicate. So there's a duplicate function here. Your curve select. You don't want to just do Control D because it's just if you do Control D, it'll give you a duplicate of the curve, but no card. So use the duplicate function here instead. Now you'll get that. Oops, I did Control D. There we go. Okay. We're just remapping our UVs to these new texture clumps. Scale. Fix that scale. And these got a little wider, so I'm going to make this one a little wider too. We'll do one more with that guy. Okay, this one got a little thinner, or did it get thicker or thinner? I forgot what I did. I got mentally distracted for a second. Okay, so I got a little thicker. Just a little bit. And even after we create a clump, we can still adjust the width as a whole, so don't worry about that. One more. So duplicate. Okay, so we have 4 unique clumps, right? Unique as in they're not exactly the same. They're similar, but they're not exactly the same. I'll go ahead and move these over here. Now, I'm gonna all of these, since I had this first 0 layer, GS CurveTools highlighted, they all went into this 0. So I'm just gonna middle mouse click and drag to J to move them over here. Now you can see there. If I shift click J, it just selects all of them. So that's pretty handy, right? And you can also make extra layers too. Like we can call this base or main. Or we can call this body layer. Now we have our main, which has our clumps, and we have a body layer. Okay, so we'll start with main. These are our 4 primary clumps. Let's see. Maybe we should go out of our way to create all the base cards since we're doing it. Sure, why not? I want to make these a little longer to kind of match the textures. Yeah, that makes sense. And you see they're flat, but they have like a little bit of a 3-dimensional look when you look at it from the front, but we want to give it a 3-dimensional look from like multiple angles. That's why we're starting out with these flat cards, but we're going to combine them into clumps. Right, so let's make this single. Duplicate. Okay. So this texture can be really tight. Maybe that might be a little too tight. Loosen that a little bit. Too thick, right? So I hit Alt 1 to turn off the curves visibility so I can see this. That feels about correct to me. I want to do 0.015. Okay. 0.02. I'm going to go with 0.02 for the width on the single for mine. You should do whatever you feel is best for yours. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat, so we're going to continue. Let's duplicate this one. Should probably be shorter too, right? And by pre-making like all of our cards, it's going to encourage us to just kind of use them all to utilize everything. You can definitely rush through these card grooms, and one thing I was thinking of starting to do after I finish this kind of long form project is I think it's something that would be cool to do is to try to do like speed grooms, like a speed sculpt, but with grooms with Xgen interactive. Saying like how far we can get into a groom in like one sitting and like a couple hours. Okay. That looks good. Duplicate this one. I think like a speed groom challenge. You know, just create a quick groom next gen and then throw that into Unreal. It might be like a cool, fun thing to do. It'll give more opportunity to kind of show you guys different techniques and try different things too for myself. Like just experiment with different approaches. Try to speed up my own workflows. At the end of the day, you do kind of want to take your time with this stuff, but you don't always have that opportunity, and sometimes it's good to just push yourself a little bit. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, sorry about that. My cat's craving attention right now. Okay. Sorry, 1 second again. I have a question for you guys, and you can answer in comments or on Discord when you get a chance. But my question basically is like, do you guys prefer this screen setup where you can see my face in the chat? Or do you prefer this where you just have the full screen? I go back and forth on it. To me, it makes sense that you guys would prefer the full screen, but maybe you want to see the chat and myself on screen at the same time. So, like, if I put my hands up and show different things, um, or talk about, you want to see my expression for some reason, let me know. Because I go back and forth on it a lot, and I don't really know what people prefer. Okay. So that'd be useful information to have. Okay, let's do this next one. I feel a little too thick. And if you need to like lengthen these or shorten them, you can. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it'll compress the texture or stretch it, obviously, but usually that looks fine in most cases, especially in a render. You don't want to stretch it too much. Obviously, if you push it too much this way, it's going to start looking funky, right? So you don't want to do that too much. Okay. This looks okay. You just have to do these three now. Hmm. All right. Again, right now I'm just finishing this, setting up all these base textures. This is my cat. Just really starving for attention right now. Okay, now she wants to go or not. See how long have we been streaming so far? Almost an hour. So okay. What's that coming through on the stream? Looks good. You can see we have all our cards individually now. Don't stress too much about getting this perfect. You're just eyeballing it right now. And again, if you have your actual groom in the same scene, that helps. But as far as like getting the scale and everything right on these, like don't stress about it too much. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. More than likely, you'll be doing a few rounds going back and forth between UE5 and Maya to kind of adjust things in the end. Or I'm gonna do that probably. Um, to kind of finesse things and fine tune them and try to get them to match your groom close. It's probably never going to be perfect until like they get those plugins working really well for the hair card generation in UE5. Like this is, I think, the best approach for now. So I probably want to make these comparatively short. This is just going to be our fill layer again. So this is going to mimic. This is our fill layer, right? Our short hair to kind of fill it in. See without it. Turn off the lighting. You can see how you can kind of see the outline of the scalp, right? So our fill layer just helps thicken that up. That's the only reason I added it with this one. You don't always need it. I did make these hairs like really thin because I made them only 0.005. They should be 0.008 more like. But this gives the hair a very like thin, wispy feel. So for this specific style, it's not. I don't mind it too much, but I think for the cards, I do want the strands to appear a little extra thick because the way the shader works in Unreal, it does kind of like cut into the thickness a little bit. And it makes them appear a little thinner, or you can make them appear a little thinner. So I think it's better to err on the side of like thickness as opposed to thinness. We'll get to that though. If you guys ever have like any questions about like what it's like to work in games or anything like that, you can feel free to type them in the chat. If you have any questions about like getting into the industry or any career advice, I know there's like a mixed bag of people who watch these videos from what I can tell. There's people who are already knee deep in the industry, and there's people most are probably just starting out character artists. So I definitely don't mind. That's what these live streams are for. Otherwise, I'll just pre-record all these videos, and then that's easier for me, honestly, in some ways. But I figure you guys might want to take the opportunity to ask questions in real time about different whatever. I think that's probably okay. Yeah. Not to say that I don't mind live streaming. How many descriptions do you need to make the hair? It's gonna depend on the hairstyle. Usually, I separate descriptions just based on like if I need to have specific different properties to things, different densities. You can totally do a hairstyle in one description, and this one I have a bunch. So like, let's break this down. So I start out with my body, right? That's just to kind of get the bulk of this in. These are all my guides for that. And then I look at it and see, okay, so what does it need next? I have a different I started adding breakup for like different, um, you know, I wanted to add these specific clumps here. And then we have our fringe as its own description. Just so I can kind of give it more of a breakup along the front here, kind of break that up more, because here it's more clumpy, you know, towards the edges. So in order to get that extra control and make these look clumpy in the front, or more spread out, I should say, that requires a separate description. These have their own description, so I can just more control because I want these nice kind of overlapping. And then I guess we have a fringe breakup here, which is just this one extra clump that goes over. Again, like the more descriptions you have separate, like the more control you're gonna have over your hairstyle. This is our hair split, our initial hair split pass. See the guides for that, and that kind of layers over our main body. Oops. Our hair split, right? So you can see how that helps break things up farther. I often like just layering things up like that. And again, you can go to my streams and watch all of my old stuff to see how I kind of put this together. And this is another hair split layer just to kind of get this center for this silhouette. And I guess we have some sideburn clumps too that I did separate. And I guess another way to think about it is like you'll have like the full hairstyle, right? And you'll do most of it on one description. But then for these like details, like these specific details for a specific hairstyle, like I want this specific clump here. Like you'll do those on their own description to kind of help build it up and layer it up. And theoretically, you could do everything like on one description. It's totally possible, but you know, this is just a tool, and you use it however you need to. And again, I was feeling pretty good about this, except the density. Like you could see the scalp here. So in the end, I added this fill layer, and then I was pretty happy with it. I was happy with the way it looked. So yeah, the number of layers is going to be like just totally dependent on any specific hairstyle, your personal approach. That's everything, I guess. All right. So again, we have this fill, right? That's our guides for the fill. And that's the fill layer itself. Just because I think it'll be relatively quick and it's not as important to get these perfect. I'm going to start just by seeing if we can get this done really quick. And let me see. I'm just kind of analyzing the density of these clumps for a second. Okay. So I think we'll need all three, yeah, for sure. Okay. Definitely not as dense towards the front here. So we can probably chill on that area a little bit. So we'll keep everything pretty dense except for the areas towards the edge of the fringe. We'll just use 2 cards for that. So let's start by creating our clumps. Just going to duplicate that. Oops. There you go. Or the steps you're talking to convert the groom to hair cards. What I'm doing now, it's a long form tutorial. It's the process. So this is our groom, right? These are our cards. I'm going to show you how I'm going to recreate this groom as a hair card piece. And then we're going to plug that into our groom component, our groom asset, and then reel. And then you'll be able to hit a switch and convert the hair strand-based groom to cards back and forth, and maintain all your physics and everything and general overall look. So that's basically what we're doing right now. So the idea here is we're just going to create some space in between these. And then in our curve control, and just our orientation. I don't want to go that. Something like that. So the goal of this is to kind of fake the density, like kind of fake a certain amount of like, make it feel like it's a clump of cards or a clump of hairs as opposed to just flat cards when you kind of look at them. So for the purposes of this first pass, I think that's probably close enough. Since this is just our fill layer, I'm not going to go too crazy with this. So next what we want to do with our guides turned on, if you look at my YouTube channel, I do show like what kind of results you can get with the another video. I believe in the one going over collisions. I do go over a little bit the what you can get with the automated tool in UE5. There's plenty of tutorials on how to use that, or at least just ones that exist. I'll show you how to use that if you just Google it or look it up on YouTube. But I show you in that video too. This is more of a manual approach because it's not going to work perfectly. It's not going to be super optimized, and then especially for like curly, complicated hairstyles, it kind of falls apart still. Curves to guides. No, we want guides to curves. Yep. So here now we have all these curves, converted our guides to curves, right? Turn this off for now. just gonna rename that group in my in the outliner. I set the filter to only so we have curve selectable. That's how I do that. So that turned on polygons, and you have like movie assets, deformers. These are your selection filters up here. For guides specifically, you need to be able to have polygons selected. So in GS CurveTools, you have some options. You have all these headers for each option section. We want to go down here to bind options. And I already have it set up to my preferences, but flip UVs before bind turned off, duplicate curves before bind turned on, bind to all available empty curves turned on, bound curves follow parent. Those are things I have set up. And so this is our clump, right? I'm going to right click number 9 here. Add selection layer. All right, so now if I turn these off, J, which has all my cards, which is Alt, select a layer, right? See, it turns your cards off and on. And now I have this here, its own layer. And if I shift click, I select those curves, right? That entire clump. So I'm going to select that. And then here on 0, I'm going to click 0, and then I'm going to highlight all these. And those are still highlighted because I shift clicked, right? And now with all those selected, if we just click bind, it's going to take some time to process. So you just have to be patient. So let's loads. What can we talk about? So right now I am in the process of working on. I'm basically the primary Groom artist for this upcoming game. Oh, actually, this looks like it's finished. Let's take a look at what we have. So it looks like these are backwards. So we need to fix that first. So let's shift click 0 because that's where we bound everything to, right? We also have an issue with orientation. So let's open up our control window. Let's flip these. Okay. The orientation looks good now. Okay. So now some of these you can see, like this one. It's like the orientation's messed up, right? We need to have everything kind of like align with the scalp, which is not currently doing. So you might be asking, how do we fix that? Easy. So all we need to do is we have this orient to normals here in the curve window. I'm going to open that up. Make sure we can select polygons. Or we can do it through the outliner too, actually. Let me see. So I'm going to align it to our scalp. You could just align it to the head too, but I think the scalp will be a little bit more reliable because it doesn't have like the normals from the ears in there, because it aligns to whatever the normal direction is facing. And by normals, Let me see. Display. For those who don't know, face normals. So you see the little lines coming off each face? That's the direction the normal is facing. So we want the orientation to align with all those. How those are set up. Okay. Select our target, so growth cap original, right? Now we're going to select our shift click our 0 layer, which has our fill. And I just go with these default settings. It has a minimum angle and an iteration step, which I think the higher this, it's going to be more accurate, but usually 10 works pretty well, but we can try higher if we need to. Just click this orient button. Okay. So it fixed a lot, but it's not perfect. It's also just generally some gaps in here too. So like this one, I want to flip that over. Another thing we should do is increase the poly count on these cards. Wait, so if we select our 0 here and then we select this select original curves, now we have our divisions. I'm gonna set the width division to 2 to lower that, and now I'm gonna set this to like 25. Go a little higher actually, because we'll reduce it in the end, but I want it to look smooth for the for this. But there's a lot of issues here on top and on the sides here around the ears, so I need to spend time fixing these. And then we'll need to kind of manually fill in some areas too, I think. But the bulk of the work here is done for us. This is nice. And compare a little bit. Obviously, these badly oriented pieces need to be fixed. And we can actually come in here. We can select all our textures. Let's rebuild these to like 10 because they're pretty short. Another thing that might help is if we thicken these, right? So in the Discord, if you join it, I have this script here to create this line width tool. And again, that should be in the description. I'll double check it at the end, but I think 5 is probably good enough. Okay. You know what'll help here is if I take some of these top pieces that are really messy. Or you know what we can do? We can do this. This might be easier. Let's hide this. And let's move. For these translate, let's move everything to the side, right? Maybe 30 is probably good enough. Okay. And what we'll do is we'll bring in some chunks at a time. So we can kind of look at them. Like this one needs to be fixed. And we can also adjust the thickness to things too. You can type in the higher numbers here too if you wanted to. Not 40. I meant to say 4. So it'll get even thicker. Obviously, we don't want that in this case. But if you need to adjust like just individually, like the overall width, you can do that. You can just know it defaults to 2. Another thing you can do is like select your original curves, and then you can add twist. If you want to add like a little bit of, which I think is good to add. I'll be doing that a lot, pretty often actually. That curve actually looks a little funky. So you can do all the things in terms of manipulating curves, even with the cards attached to it, which is kind of cool. You can change, rebuild them and everything. You can taper it a little bit too, if we need to. It tapers based on individual cards, just keep that in mind. And it can kind of act funky sometimes, I guess. So let's say we want to taper all of these a little bit. And right now I think these textures look a little ugly, but it's also just a fill layer, so it may not matter. But I'm probably going to make some adjustments to these offline when I rebake the textures. Let's grab another batch. And if it helps too, you can also do this. You can take this next batch and then apply it to a new layer, and you can turn off the old one so you can focus. I think that's good to do too. Taper these a little bit. I just pulled that off a bit so the root read doesn't penetrate or clip. You have an offset here too, but that's more for like along the length, and it can break a little bit if you go in this direction, as you can see. So offset's only really good if you I feel like this needs to be fixed somehow. You can reduce the length too, but it doesn't seem like you can do like 20 is the default. So I think what you need to do is like if you want to offset it a little bit, like from the base, and then you need to reduce the length. So you can do stuff like that. Okay. I might show you an alternative method for doing the fill too. That might work a little better. Might not be as efficient, but it might give slightly better results. So we're just gonna go through their batch. Adding a little bit of twist to some of these. And all these fill are gonna be under this long layers of hair. I'm gonna fix this curve. Just using the smooth to smooth out that curve a bit. Okay. Right now our goal is just to populate and get like a nice coverage over the entire scalp, so that way we don't have to worry about the density so much, because we'll have a good fill. Like, it'll get good coverage on the scalp. Isn't it better to make the hair using only hair cards without making it a groom prior? No, not necessarily. I wouldn't say so. I First of all, like, this specific workflow, you can of course just make the hair cards, which I've done for many years, of course. But no, like, a lot of modern games are moving to strand-based grooms, but they still need the hair cards as an alternative for performance, oftentimes. Um, and so, in a lot of cases, you're gonna need both a groom-based hair asset, and then you're gonna need a card version as well. So I work for Microsoft Game Studios. I work for an Exile Entertainment specifically. I'm working on Clockwork Revolutions, and I'm the primary groom artist on that game. And so the way we're doing it is we are using strand-based grooms for cutscenes, and then we're doing hair cards for all the gameplay. So basically, as you're playing the game, you're running to cutscenes, and our dialogue scenes it'll be like a cutscene, and in all those instances, the hair's all strand based, and then when it cuts back to gameplay, it's like a first person game, right? All the characters will switch to card based grooms, and you want those to be matched as close as you can. And so, like, this is the modern workflow for like a modern game, right? So yes, for a long time, games would just be only card-based rooms. And in that case, yeah, I would say, yeah, just go for doing a straight card room right from the start. And you can totally do that. But this is more conducive to 2024 and beyond type of workflow. And this is probably going to be more relevant for like the next 5 to 10 years, probably. I'm pretty sure we're going to be using some combination of strand and card-based grooms going forward for at least another decade, until we get enough computational power to just do straight strand-based grooms in games, which is, it's not going to be for a while, to be honest. And I'm sure a lot of games are just going to opt to do only hair cards most of the time for a while, just because the performance delta is so extreme, honestly. So it's clipping a little bit, so I just want to pull that out a little bit. It's okay that it's floating. And again, you're probably not going to see it under all the other hairs. another script I have in my Discord, which you can use with these. So if I select my hair cap as my scalp mesh, and let's say I come here, right, and I want to duplicate this, which we're going to be doing to get some of this extra fill in. I don't want to actually do that. So you can just kind of move it around generally, and then you can hit the snap to surface, which threw it somewhere else. Let's see. Why is that happening? Transformation. There we go. So that'll always snap it to like the nearest surface point. So if I move this around and snap it, it'll just snap it in place. So that's cool. So I'm not going to worry about them. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's fine. It looks bad, but I don't think you're ever going to see that. Okay. And yeah, I think the more people who know this process, the better for like just games in general. Because like when I work with outsourcing, like they have separate people doing the cards and separate people doing the grooms, and I think it's like kind of inefficient to do it that way. But that's just how they operate. So my goal is to like kind of teach this, and hopefully that kind of helps things for our industry. And I like a popular method right now is I believe it was Andre Pyers. He has this ZBrush method for doing cards, and that's cool. But I think this will save a lot of time in comparison because you already have your guides placed from the Groom, right? And so you don't have to go through that tedious process of taking your normally what we would do is you would take this and carefully place it on the scalp, right? At least in Maya. I know with ZBrush it's a little different. This still saves a lot of time. So I'm going to take these and actually I want to fix those tips. So use our selection slider here. I'm going to turn off the soft select. Hold shift and drag it a bit so it encompasses the roots. And I'm going to smooth those out. It's going to fuck with our orientation. Let's do this. There we go. Okay. I think how I kind of like to work through things in layers, right? And pieces and parts, just to make it less overwhelming. Almost at 2 hours now. These already look pretty good. Okay. Okay, these ones, some of these look bad, right? Yeah, so our original kind of squeeze everything in there. So what I did just there is I rebuilt these to like a small number to get rid of some of the odd curvature, so all the way down to like 2. And then I let it go, and then I rebuild it back up. And it helps kind of like clean up the shapes a little bit. Sometimes it's nice to like, even after you get the orientation kind of how you want it, add a twist to kind of align it along. So even with this low, this one has kind of an odd pitch. Okay. But you can see, as long as you work on these like a few pieces at a time, it definitely becomes more manageable. This one's just totally backwards. I see. So sometimes little kinks like that create strange issues. Few of them have that. Um, as you can see though, like we're getting through placing these pretty fast. Now it still takes a little bit of time, but compare that to like and obviously we'll have to do some work filling some of this blank in, but like compare that to placing all these by hand manually. Like this is still considerably faster, I think. Way less tedious for sure, and you can sort of focus on like more quality than spending so much time just placing the base orientation to begin with. I don't know why so many of these have these stupid kinks in them. I need to fix all of these. If you want to hide like the cards while you're fixing these too, you can just I believe if you hold Control and Alt and then click on the layer here, it'll hide just the cards. Fix this. Delete that. Delete that. Delete that. You can actually just delete points if you highlight them like that and delete them. If like any points just making like an odd kink. Okay. Again, Control Alt click brings back your cards. And Control Shift, I believe, hides the curves. So you can hide the curves, hide the cards, or just hide all of it. If you hover over 0, it gives you all the controls right there. Just leave your mouse over it. If you highlight, if you hover over any of theirs, it doesn't do it. But over 0, it'll give you all the controls there. I think I'm just gonna auto orient this real quick. There we go. So I think maybe some of the auto orient stuff didn't come out as clean as it could have because of the some of the kinks in some of the curves, like I just showed you that we fixed. And it seems like as soon as we fixed it, like I kind of want to twist all of these a little bit. That. It's fine, I guess. Let's go through the same thing, clean these curves first. Delete that. So on some of these where it dips into the scalp oddly, I'm just deleting the second point. That gets rid of those kinks near the root. Good enough. think those are fine. So stuff like this I don't really like when a card higher is overlapping a card lower, but I'm a little conflicted whether or not to correct it because, again, it is just a fill layer. Like, that's technically more ideal, something like that. I think we will correct it then, I guess. See what we have so far. Let's hide this. It's distracting. Okay. Let's see how far. We're about the 2 hour mark. I may finish this next time, I think. I could do like just take a break now. But we're almost done with this fill layer as far as like the initial pass on it. And then once we finish that, we'll do a pass to kind of fill in these blank spots that we have. And then I'll have the texture kind of reworked a little bit, so it's a little cleaner than what it is now. I'd like to do that as well. Yeah. All right, so look forward to next time. We'll have more progress on this. I'll have all this filled in, and then we'll work through the other layers. I think once we get through this full body layer, and then we get through this stuff, like the rest should be pretty quick, because the rest is just like a few clumps, right? Like this piece here, it's just a few sets of cards. Fringe. Like all this stuff will still take time. Like we want to work through it carefully, right? Like all this outer stuff is the most important stuff to really make look good, gorgeous type of, you know. So that's the stuff we'll really be spending time with. It looks like I messed up some of my width on some of these. I must have accidentally selected some of these. Okay, let's try not to mess that up again. Okay. So, yeah. So we'll finish this. We'll aim to finish this fill layer next stream. We should be able to just jump right back into populating this. Even if I don't get the textures updated by next stream, we'll still finish working through this stuff. 30. Okay. All right, I don't see any new questions, so I will see you guys hopefully next week, and it just depends how busy I get. I did stream an extra hour to make up for last weekend that I missed, so hopefully that helps. All right, that's the end.